This is the Huion Kamvas Pro 24 Gen 3, Huion's top-of-the-line pen display. It has... Hold on a second. Derek, where's the box?
What?
The box! I'm always talking while I'm standing in front of a box.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yes, I'm sure. Bring in the box! That's a really big box. Yeah, 24 inches is a huge tablet, and Huion is really swinging for the fences and trying to put everything they can into this year's top-of-the-line pen display. So let's take a look at that really, really big box and see what you get. So the big thing you get is the Kamvas Pro itself. It's a giant monitor that hooks up to your Mac or your PC, and then you draw on it using the included pens. And as you probably guessed from the name, it's sporting a 24-inch screen. This is actually a 24-inch touchscreen. Along the top, you have things like your power on buttons, the place where you connect all your cables. There's even a way to toggle the touch feature on and off. And along the side of the tablet, there's even some USB Type-A ports, so you can plug in some of the accessories. And it even comes with a headphone jack, which comes in handy if you want to listen to music while you're drawing. At the very top of the box, we have our quick start guide, which just basically kind of runs you through how to connect this thing and get it up and running. And of course, if you're going to draw on this thing, you're going to need some pens. So inside this pen box, you have a lot of different things. We have two battery-free styluses. There's their standard size stylus, which you're used to seeing on these type of devices, but they're also including their slim pen as well. And inside that holder, we have several standard nibs and also some felt tip nibs. You have all the cables that you're going to need to attach this thing. There's a power cable, which you're going to need no matter what configuration you go with. I was able to connect this to my computer using the included USB-C to USB-C cable, but if you would prefer to use an HDMI port on your laptop or your computer, they have that cable here as well. If you do go the HDMI route, you're also going to need to connect a USB cable as well to go along with that. The HDMI cable transfers the image, the USB cable transfers the data. If you go just USB Type-C like I did, it transfers both. New to this year's pen display, they are including in the box the G1 colorimeter. This is to calibrate your monitor so you can get more accurate colors. In this envelope, we have a color calibration report. And in this little box here, we have the newly redesigned Huion key dial remote. I like this. It has a little bit more heft than the old remote and a little LCD screen. So after you add your customized shortcuts to it, you can see what those shortcuts are. We have some other miscellaneous items in here like a cleaning cloth, some of the documentation, and look at this. It's a drawing glove. This isn't really a huge upgrade over the last generation. They're just kind of boosting up some of the specs here and there. We have a 24-inch screen. Technically, it's 23.8 inches. It is a full 4K. That's 3,840 pixels by 2,160 pixels. That's also a 16 by 9 aspect ratio. It's also a 60 hertz IPS display with a 1000:1 contrast ratio. Now, one of the things that they're really packing into this, as you probably guessed by including the colorimeter in the box, is give you the best color accuracy they can at a decent price. So we have 99% sRGB, 99% Adobe RGB, 98% DCI-P3, 98% Display P3. Everybody's getting an A. But what it comes down to is when I look at the screen, when I pull up drawings on the screen that I know what they're supposed to look like, I think it's punchy. I think it looks good. This is an etched glass display, so there is a matte anti-reflective coating on this. Now, part of that is because a drawing tablet sits flat on your desk, and so you don't want the lights like reflecting directly off your tablet screen and being distracting. But the other part of that is it also gives it a little bit of a texture. So when you're drawing on it, your pen doesn't slide around and slip around too much. It just gives you a little bit more grip there. Of course, that is going to dull the color a little bit. The colors aren't going to be as punchy as on a matte screen as it is on a glossy screen, but that is okay. That's pretty much what all displays like this do, and I'm glad they do. I would like the pen control over that punchier color. Now, one thing that does separate this Huion pen display from other Huion displays that I've tested in recent years is that along the back there is not an adjustable stand. There's room for you to add one, or a room if you want to like mount this to an arm, so you could get a stand for this. But by default in the box it doesn't come with one, but the tablet does come with fold-out feet. So you can fold this out, sits at a nice 20-degree angle. It works really well for drawing. I thought it worked really well for me, but if you're someone who wants to kind of shift between angles on this, for example, maybe you want to draw and that Those feet give you a nice like drawing angle to sit at, but when you're done drawing, you want to pull it up and just use it as a monitor to like view your email or type on or do photo editing on without the pen. It doesn't have that stand. You're going to have to pick that up extra. I think it is interesting that they have included the color calibrator in the box this year. Now, this is an area where I am not exactly an expert. My philosophy has always been, hey, this color looks good. This color looks accurate compared to the other monitors I'm used to using, whether it's my laptop monitor or my big monitor that sits on my desk. I don't expect my colors to be perfect from monitor to monitor. I expect them to look fairly similar to each other, so it's not too off. And this display, by default, without me touching it, does that really well. I did go in with the color calibrator and played with the software a little bit and tried it out and did some different things. And it seems to work pretty well. But again, I don't know what I'm looking at here. If you're a photographer who really needs that accurate color, you're probably going to appreciate this more than I did. If you're working in animation and you have to share color spaces with other people on your team, this is the type of thing that's going to come in handy. I think it's more niche, though. More of a nice to have than something that everybody is really reliant on. And this is an area that Wacom is really focused on with their pro level tablets over the last few generations. So I'm not surprised to see XP Pen and Huion and brands like that also jumping on that bandwagon and going for that higher end color accuracy. I mentioned those other brands. If you want to see how this compares to those, I rank all of the things that I review over on my website, bradsartschool.com. So if you want to see all my reviews in one place, it's a good place to go. Also, while you're there, you can check out my courses like Intro to Digital Art, where I talk about how I use brushes and colors and all that fancy stuff, or learn how to draw in 60 days, which is really geared towards beginners, so it's not for everybody. It's really more about giving you the foundations of art so you can tackle harder courses and topics later on. Anyway, those are all on my website if you'd like to learn more. And with that out of the way, let's talk about this pen. This is using Huion's PenTech 4.0. I've used this on other tablets before, and it's fantastic. It works really, really well. They have really kind of gone a long way to catching up with what Wacom is doing. I still think the Wacom Pro Pen 3 is a touch better, but really you do have to pay more money to get a pen that's, 5% better, 10% better. And I think for most people, for me definitely, this pen is good enough. If I really go looking for like wave in the lines and that sort of thing, I can find it, but really when I'm drawing, it doesn't affect my line work, and I do a lot of line work. Since I do a lot of those ink lines, I'm also looking for pen pressure that I can hold pretty well, so it's not going to blow out in certain areas, or if I'm going around the edge of a curve, I can kind of hold that pressure. It does those things really, really well. I mentioned before that this does come with some of those felt tip nibs in that little carrying case. That included with the pen pressure that this is doing, the accuracy that I'm getting from this pen. I think that the initial activation rate on this pen is really nice. Those nice lines, I feel like I could just jump in and enjoy this tablet for what it is without having to like adjust a ton of settings and tweak the pen and do that sort of thing. But if I wanted to, I could jump into the settings and change this pen around. There's shortcut buttons on that. I can change the shortcut buttons. I can change the tightness or the looseness of that pressure. I can change that pressure curve here. Since there are two pens included here, you can actually calibrate these two pens separately. So if you wanted one pen to feel one way, and you don't want to go into the settings and change everything around to get your pen to feel differently, you just pick up the other pen, have it already calibrated, and use it instead. Now, we do need to talk about this shortcut remote because this is new. The old shortcut remote that they gave out with these tablets was solid. It was pretty good. It was far more lightweight and it didn't feel as premium, but I didn't really mind because it got the job done. It had keys, you press them, they gave you shortcuts. What else do you need? But with that said, I think this is a worthy upgrade. XP Pen has done something similar with their shortcut remote, adding in those visual aids on the little LCD display so you just can glance at it and say, where did I put the shift key? Where did I put the space bar again? I like the big wheel along the top. You can customize this to either zoom in and out or change your brush size or rotate your canvas. Although, since this is a touchscreen, I really just kept it to brush size the whole time because the touchscreen allowed me to pinch and zoom. It allowed me to take two fingers and pan around my canvas. So it took a lot of those shortcuts out of my hands. I did still like to keep it around for like undo, and Photoshop undoing is kind of a pain in the butt. In Clip Studio, where I was drawing for most of this video in the background, though, I was able to just use 2 fingers to tap on the screen and undo there automatically. That is a nice feature. One I wish Photoshop would adopt, but at this point, I don't think they ever will. As far as the touchscreen goes, it's pretty good. I find that it works perfectly on Windows. Everything works great. On a Mac, and this is kind of the case with all touchscreens, it's a little bit more finicky because Mac just isn't built for touch, so they're kind of like hacking their way through it. It works fine. Not quite as smooth as it is on Windows, but it'll get you by. When you're pinching and zooming and rotating and stuff, it's not as intuitive as using an Android tablet or an iPad or something like this, but it works. In some apps, I did notice that it was leaving palm marks. It was activating things accidentally and that sort of thing. So the palm rejection is only so-so on this thing. I've kind of gotten used to that over the years, and since I'm using mostly Clip Studio for my drawing nowadays, I'm able to go in there, adjust the settings, and say, pay attention to the pen, ignore my palm, and everything works great. Photoshop, I just didn't get quite as many like false positives with my palm and stuff like that, so it wasn't that big a deal, even though Photoshop doesn't have those settings. So overall, what do I think of this thing? I think it is a really solid tablet. I think it's a good tablet. It is definitely on the pricier side. Like if I was buying something like this for myself personally, I don't know if the 4K display is really worth it. You know, on a 24-inch screen, it does look really nice because you're getting up close, you're not seeing any pixels, it's still really crisp. If I look at something like the non-pro version of the Kamvas that comes in this size, you're not getting a touchscreen on that. You're getting lower res, you're getting 2K, but what I find is 2K on a lot of screens, well, less so on the 24. On a 16-inch screen, 2.5K is fine, or 2K is fine. Here on this like larger screen, you can see pixels on those more inexpensive displays where you can't on the 4K. Some people are going to love that. You're not getting that touch screen on that more inexpensive display. A better comparison here might be the latest Cintiq 24 Touch, which came out over the summer. Now, it costs a little bit more, not too much more, only like $100, $200 more. It also is lower res, but it does have touch. I will say that the Pro Pen 3 is the nicer of the pens, so if you wanted that Wacom pen, it's available to you at not that much more now. That display, though, is giving up a lot of the color accuracy options that this one is giving you. Now, for me, I don't need that color accuracy. The Cintiq looks good enough. The non-pro Kamvas looks good enough. But if you need that, you're definitely going to want to go pro. If you need the 4K, you're going to want to go pro. So overall, I have no problem recommending this. It's just that this is an area where there's a lot of competition now, and we're not seeing a ton of improvement from generation to generation. So what do you think? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.